that I have this bright idea to where I'm going to quit my job and focus on content creation full time. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I figure out if this is what I want to do and this is the way that I want to do it. I honestly have all of the fear. And I know, they tell you about the God has not given the spirit of fear and all that good stuff. But I'm just going to be in my natural right now. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that I want to do something. And I'm 43, if my gray hairs are telling my right age. And I'm trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. Can you help me?
I absolutely can help you out. I just turned 46. And so a few years ago, actually, I was in the same boat as you, in the sense of ready to do what you were called to do, ready to do your life's work, ready to really work out your passion full time. So I get it. I understand it. But one of the things that you have to take a look at is you have to first define your why. Right? You got to first define your why, because understanding your why is going to take you a long way on the journey. And we'll get into that a little bit more.
If the motive is because I think God has let me, or no, you're not supposed to say things. I know that part too. I've taken a lot of classes on this stuff, right? So you're not supposed to say I think, you're supposed to say I know. I know God is leading me to do something, and it's not getting in and out of a truck for 12 hours a day. So I believe that He's saying, I've given you all these gifts and talents, and it's time to use them for my glory. Okay, cool. That's cool, God. I'll roll with that. I'll track with that. That's for me the why. It's because I'm believing that God is telling me to do it.
Okay. So in other words, you had a God said, and so you stepped out on a God said. So the first thing you got to do is define your why. Your why is, this is what God said. I believe it. And so I'm going for it. I'm stepping out of the boat. Number 2 is you have to discover the cost. And what I mean by that is everything, good or bad, everything has a cost. Everything has a consequence or repercussion of something, right? And so we got to first sit down, and me and you are people of faith. And the Bible says we got to first sit down and count up the costs, financial costs, your time, your how are you going to maneuver? How are you going to survive? How are you going to live? Because we still live in this natural world where we need money. Right. And so you got to count up the cost to say, am I willing to really stay in the fight, to go through what I may need to go through? And there are some costs that you won't be able to count because you don't know what those costs are up ahead. It's kind of go along with the saying where we often say, nobody told me about this part. I knew about this, right? But nobody talks about this part. It makes it look easy, but you didn't tell me I may have to sleep in my car. You didn't tell me, that I may have to, get in the unemployment line for a minute or get whatever the case may be. You have to count up the cost. Third thing is devise a plan. So
wait, you saying that I'm actually supposed to have a plan before I just go ahead and up and leave my job?
I am, because that's wisdom. That's wisdom. The whole book of Proverbs, right, is we call a book of wisdom. It's not just these wonderful, sayings. They're principles, right? And so the ant, we can learn so much from an ant, because the ant plans. They do things before time. They store things up, right, before the winter comes. So even with dealing with savings and just this idea of learning from an ant, right? We learn the principle of saving our money, not spending everything all at once. And so we have to begin to be wise in our decisions. As many individuals that I look up to, that I admire, that are in our world today on major platforms, we call them celebrities, and we hear these stories, right? Rightfully so, and they are millionaires, billionaires. But for me, When I hear, you slept in your car, for 3 years, and I know things happen. I know things happen. So please hear my heart when I say this, but we cannot just jump ship because we're tired of our jobs. We cannot just jump ship because you like, well, I got this passion in me and God told me to do this. One of the things that I had a conversation with many people, but especially one of my mentors, I said, I believe that he told you to do this, but did he tell you when? And a lot of times we don't ask God when. When are we supposed to do it? When do we step out? When do we start building, right? And so God is probably looking at us and saying, yeah, I said that, but I didn't tell you to move now. There is always timing with God.
Planning.
There's always timing with God. And so we are such in a rush oftentimes because we're frustrated with our boss. We're frustrated with the company. Maybe they're not paying enough money, rightfully so, right? Back in the day, before we had this entrepreneurial era, because entrepreneurship is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing new, right? But we are in this space and in this era of entrepreneurship that everybody is doing it. So it's like, oh, I got a passion too. I want to do that full time too. But you have to wait things out. Back in the day, we would say, hey, before we leave this job, I'm going to make sure I have another one lined up. Why did we do that? Why did we do that? To make sure we ate. And Lord forbid, if you have children, if you have a wife, and I'm single and I'm still thinking about these things. But for those who are married with kids or single with kids, there's more that you have to take into account than just jumping out the boat and calling it faith. Calling it this is what God said, because anytime that God has said a thing, listen, he gonna make it good. The Lord maketh rich and he adds no sorrow with it. It doesn't mean you won't have trials. It doesn't mean you won't have tribulations or hardship. It doesn't mean that. You go in already knowing that because you understand the character of your Father. You understand the character of God. You've been here before. He brought you out before and he'll bring you out again. So thank God for grace and mercy, right? When we get out there, and it's like, okay, God, I'm out here now. I did this. You didn't tell me at this time. So do I stay out here or do I pick up a part-time job so that I can still be able to build? And I feel like that, Je Vaughn, is still a part of moving in wisdom when I didn't, in fact, count the cost, and maybe I didn't have a plan to step outside my job. I'm gonna say one more example really quick. I have a friend, and we don't talk often. She used to live here in Bloomington. We went to church together, but we talk on Facebook, right? And so she went to go get her doctorate, doing amazing things right now. But one of the things that she's an author, and one of the things that she said and testifies about is before she left her job to full-time pursue her doctorate, she saved up $20,000. She saved up $20,000. Why did she do that?
So she could support me in case I lose my job and need some place to go stay and get a loan. I need this friend's name and email address. Anyway, no, I'm sorry. As you were saying.
But when I heard that, I don't hear a lot of stories like that. But when I heard it, I said, God, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not all of us gotta sleep in the car. Not all of us have to have the story of I was homeless for 6 years, but now you see my glory. Going full-time entrepreneurship ain't for punks, right? No. Listen, I need a level. I mean, I'm used to stepping outside my comfort zone, but when I know that it's God, because why? I'm excited. It's easier to do. Not that it's easy, but it's easier because I know he said it and he's backing me up. No, I told you to go at this time, Char. Well, God, I mean, it's $10 in the bank. What do you mean? Right? But I'm secure because I know he said it and I know it was the timing. So what does that say? Because of those two things, you got to supply for me. You're obligated to take care of me. It's almost like the umbrella. If it's raining outside, we get an umbrella, right? When we don't have that umbrella, we get rained on. Imagine that umbrella being the covering of God, because you understood it's your season of rain. You understood it's your time to step outside the boat and do what I called you to do. But the moment that I step outside of that umbrella or don't have it, I'm uncovered. So when I step outside of the purpose of God, outside of the will of God, he ain't obligated to cover me. He's not obligated. But he is so gracious and so merciful that when we cry out to him, just like the Israelites, he comes back into the picture. Or we come back into the picture and say, Lord, I did that. Can you cover me? Can you help me work this out? And I'm going to stay under the umbrella, under your will, under the word that you've spoken over my life. The last thing. So I said, first, you got to define your why before we step outside this boat. Second thing, discover the cost. Third thing, devise a plan, because you got to, let's be people of wisdom. And the last thing is decide to be patient.
Oh, patience is tough now. Now you're saying something. So what I said was that I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, and everything is just gonna boom because God said it. That means it's like a magic trick. Boom.
I wish.
Then all of a sudden it just happens.
I wish. God, I wrote this in my book, Just Be It, shameless plug, a guide to finding your fit and living with bold intent. But my very first book I published, have more to come. But one of the things I talk about in that book is that God doesn't do microwaves. He loves crock pots and he loves ovens. Ain't that the truth? That's why you're laughing.
That's good.
He don't do microwaves. He'll let you slow cook, right? He'll do ovens. He'll do ovens. Now the Bible specifically talk about ovens and purifying things, but microwaves, you can hang it up. When it comes to God, nothing is quick like that. But when it's, let me preface this though, but when it's your season and when it's your time, all doors are open. And it comes so fast. It's one door after another, to the point where you like in Amos, I believe, chapter 9, verse 3, I believe, but it's in the book of Amos where it talks about God is going to be doing so much in your life. It's going to make your head swim. Message verse. It's going to make your head swim everywhere you turn. It's like, hey, Char, I want you to come here. Hey, Je Vaughn, I need you next week to do this. Can you do it? Do you have time? Right? And so we have to have patience. Patience is a virtue.
That I desire, don't necessarily have.
Yeah, come on. And that's okay. And God loves, one of the things God loves is honesty. Lord, I don't have that. I'm working on that. Right? We can come to our daddy and tell him that. And so he begins to work on us because he wants us to be open. But I long suffered for so long. I mean, it was year after year after year. And in the beginning, you feel defeated. In the beginning, you like, Lord, do you truly love me? Do you have something for me? Everybody else is moving ahead, but I still feel like I'm back here, renting while everybody else is getting houses. I'm back here still single while everybody else is getting married. All of these things, right? But I understood, Char, you have a divine purpose, and God has a set time for you. And so this is why I tell people, you only look to the left or the right to be inspired and to admire others, but not to compete with them. You want to compliment them and say, Je Vaughn, you're doing an amazing job, right? But I'm not in competition with you. We on the same team. We may be in different lanes. Je Vaughn Sho, I'm out here speaking, whatever the case may be. but we're on the same team and we're striving for the same things or types of things. And so we have to decide in our mind, like, I got to be patient with the process, because I understand trouble is going to come. It's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of when is it going to knock at your door, right? And so if I'm already decided, I often tell people, you got to decide before you have to decide.
Wow.
It's like being in a relationship. And the Lord said, hey, I need you to break up and let that be a forever breakup with that man or with that woman, right? And the enemy is always going to come try you. It's necessary that he does, because you got to see what's in you. Do I have patience in me? Do I have love in me for real, for real? Despite that, I know you just talked about me, or, you blasted my name, or whatever the case may be. The enemy is going to knock at our door. And so if I decide now, I'm not going to open it. If I got to get my accountability partners over to my house, that's what I'm going to do, because I got to stay in position. I got to stay in position. So likewise, in this entrepreneurial space, we got to stay in position. We got to stay prepared, because we never know when God says time, and now we rushing to get things together. Why? Because we wasn't in position and we wasn't prepared.
Tell them.
I'm talking to you. Your platform will expand. The step that you made on faith was a complete one, and there were people who actually advised you against it, and they made you feel totally crazy and asinine for stepping out on faith. But God said, because you stepped out on the water, Peter, Jesus said, I'm going to meet you there. And those who are expecting you to sink, tell them they in for a rude awakening. I also see sponsors. Yeah, they're coming. I say, go to sleep at night, because you go to sleep stressed, tossing and turning, like, oh my God, is this going to work? Did I make the right decision? Blah, 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 blah. God said, go to sleep. I got you. Now I'm done with that. Get a little bit crazy.
The hardest part of the podcast journey is starting. It is time to take that first step. Begin your journey today.
I've been told by many individuals on my team that this is ridiculous, that I need to get this fully together, that I need to get this right. So what better place for a black man to go get a haircut than sports player? yes, I got myself together. And it's all thanks to the mighty, mighty God in that sports clip.